two ninjas spoiling movies. Yeah. And Brandon Collins, that's me. It's just a brand for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! Haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Who's the master? Well, that's your warning. And if you get pissed, it's all your fault. What is up, beautiful little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? It's your boy, Eddie Collins.
Guys, it's Justin Brown. I will not make this episode a fucking musical. I refuse to let it happen.
We're talking about theater camp, man. You gotta add some, razzle dazzle into it.
No, I think you can add all the razzle dazzle you want, you fucking crazy person.
I'm not crazy. I'm a little unhinged. But folks, yeah, that's right. We're Medium Popcorn, and we are talking about theater camp, which you can check out on Hulu right this second. But first listen to our review, then you can decide if you want to check it out. So Justin, we were talking before we pushed the record button. Neither one of us have done theater camp, but you've done theater though? Like obviously we did sketch comedy together, but did you do theater in college or high school or middle school or anything?
No, I did no theater. No theater in school or anything, but I have done a play for just a thing that I was booked on, which was it was cool, but I also realized that theater just isn't for me.
Got it. Yeah. I realized that I kind of knew when I got to college, but theater was a way for me to kind of especially freshman year, to meet new people immediately.
Trying to get his dick wet, guys.
I mean, there are some cute girls in theater, in musical theater.
Pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, if you are a straight man in theater, there's some good prospects usually. These people are fucking crazy. And I think that's what theater camp did really well, which is, yes, the kids are very enthusiastic and they're expressing themselves, and they usually they're not beaten down by adulthood. So they their imagination can run wild. They very rarely restrict themselves, but adults in theater are fucking crazy. I did theater in middle school and high school. And whether it's the parent volunteers, the writers they hired, I mean, I've told a few stories on this podcast before about when I did that Dracula play, where they hired a gay black man from New York to come to Ann Arbor, Michigan to write and direct an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And this dude was out of control, but they paid him so much money they couldn't let him go. I think there was a clause they couldn't fire him. Otherwise, they had to pay his whole rate. And mind you, Ann Arbor had a huge budget. We were doing Les Mis and stuff as the musicals, which the rights are crazy expensive.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. So they took this shit we would go to theater competitions. The org would go to theater competitions and place fairly well. It was intense.
So what it really comes down to is everybody you're listening to this, just realize that Brandon is a product of the fucking Michigan theater bubble, aka anything that's wrong with Brandon is also wrong with Michigan. He is a representative of those people. Go on.
Okay. I mean, I get you're trying to make a joke about it, but actually, I think my experience in Michigan is the reason why I have successful productions now. The experience I had being pushed to because I learned how theater production works in Michigan because I was behind the scenes and on stage and stuff like that. So yes, it's easy to be oh, that's why Brandon's wild, but there's other factors that contributed to it. But that's the reason why my shows do really well because I've been observing the shit for half my life.
Brandon, first of all,
you trying to shit on me.
We out here joking, being injustice. It's well, listen, motherfucker.
No, because I ain't taking this hit. I ain't taking this hit when I'm getting success in this shit. No, I'm not taking this lying down. The days of Justin Brown trying to bully Brandon Collins are over.
Okay? Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Guys, I have far much more to bully Brandon about.
Because it's because what I learned in theater is one, I saw what happens with people when they don't grow in the arts. when they like get attached to a dream, and if that dream doesn't pan out, they get kind of like stuck. And that's kind of like the main two characters in this, like the adults. Rebecca, Diane, and Amos, played by Ben Platt and Molly Gordon, because they're like they have this vision of what their life, their career should be, but they're in their various ways, they're like almost too afraid to move on from that and pivot, and that's why they're just stuck in this theater camp, living out these crazy dreams, and like manipulating these kids to like basically live vicariously through. You know what I mean?
And I think I do have to go back and say it's like I guess I did do theater because I did Upright Citizens Brigade, which is heavy.
Improv is crazier than half the musical theater and shit I did.
Yeah, and
those are broken niggas.
And there's a lot of like crossover between theater people and improv and the people who who do both. So I understand what theater is and like the madness that theater is, and you have to be prepared for that. You really have to be prepared for that, especially if you're somebody on the outside looking in. And like, actually, which what I'm about to say is going to be fucking nuts. But in a way, it's kind of true. Well, not fully, but in a way, I kind of felt like Jimmy Tatro's fucking character Troy at some points being at UCB. Is like the way like the other people that at the theater interacted with me. It's fucking cat because it's like they're like kind of like you're not one of us. So like I felt it from I kind of felt it from his perspective, because theater is a very particular it's a very particular thing, and it's a group, and everyone understands how this thing goes. And if you're not from that and you don't understand it necessarily, they are they are not kind, and they don't really welcome new people in to their group. And it's like you're with them or you're not with them. And so basically it's kind of like much like you look at high schools, it's like, oh, these are the cool kids, this such and such and such. Is just like the moment you're in theater, then there's the cool kids within theater, and then like it turns everything on his head, because a cool kid from
oh, Justin, we just lost your audio for some
reason. Fucking macho just turned off the goddamn hit the button. Like a cool kid could come in from anywhere else, and that you could be cool somewhere else, and then you come into theater and it's like it's not the same thing, because they just don't they just won't. They're like, hey, you're out there, you're not one of us. It's like none of that matters here.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I think Jimmy Tatro, who played Troy Rubinsky, I think that his character arc was pretty interesting, being an outsider coming in and trying to make this work. I mean, he had good intentions, and I think that that's where it's kind of shitty how a lot of the people were towards him. I mean, yes, his ideas were very weird and like off place for what they actually need to do at the camp. Yeah. But remember, he's inheriting this from his mom, played by Amy Sedaris, who I don't know what it is about Amy Sedaris. I think one, she's really funny, but also I'm like, I don't know, this kind of like old white woman that I kind of am attracted to. I don't know. Maybe it's because like the 90s and the sitcoms my nana used to make me watch. But she has they didn't quite say what she had. Like, I think it was a stroke because the flashing lights from the musical that she went to go scout people. But she's in a coma, basically. And so Troy has to help run this camp and try to keep it afloat, even though it's going into foreclosure. And so he's learning on the job, and he's like a social media influencer. I'm saying that in quotes, because he probably only have a few dozen people that watch his channel and shit.
Yeah.
But
100%.
He's trying his best, trying to run this thing. He is trying to learn, I liked his friendship with Glenn, the dude who's like been around, like kind of the stagehand, like groundskeeper, played by Noah Galvin, because Glenn's like kind of teaching him about the culture and like the terminology and stuff. I love the scene where it's like, he's like, what's a straight play? It's like, it's like it's not a musical.
Not a musical.
And then he's like, so what's a musical? It's like a gay play.
No, he says, what's a gay play then?
Oh yeah, it is like a musical.
Like
yeah,
a musical.
It's a great bit. Also, it was hilarious that Glenn was just in the office, like in all black. Like he was like almost faded into the curtain, and like Jimmy just like
Well, I mean, but also that's because he's part of crew.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, he
so
wears all
like
black. Yeah,
he's so used to just like just fading into the background. Because, that's what they do.
Yeah, and he did eventually. Glenn has his moment in the spotlight, which we'll talk about. But I just want to shout out Jimmy Tatro. Jimmy Tatro. I know he was in that Burt Kreischer movie. I didn't see that, but
Not great.
I do have to say, like, ever since I saw him in American Vandal, he's fucking hilarious. Like this whole like dopey kind of like, idiot with a like heart of gold kind of character that he does. It's just very charming, and he's got that weird gravelly voice that's like, hey bro, like with his excitement when that kid starts singing the Post Malone song during that audition, and he's just like been sleeping the whole time. He's like, yo. he's like, hey, you know any other Post songs at the top of the dome? Like that Spider-Verse song or Wow.
It's like, what is going on? This guy, he was such a mess. But he added. I mean, he was kind of the the layman's fucking
our entry into the world.
Exactly.
Like if you're not at the theater, like you have no context. He was definitely that entry point. The only issue with his storyline is I didn't like the whole like the chick from the the company that's trying to like buy the camp. I thought that was kind of like that kind of went off the rails, like almost too absurd. Even though this is like a very weird, absurd kind of world, like between the actors and just like the dialogue and how crazy they are. But I did like that the script, and there's a lot of writers on this, including the actors in the movie, like Noah Galvin, Molly Gordon, Ben Platt. That the characters really did cater to the strengths of the actors. Like this actually worked really well as like a platform for Ben Platt. I thought Ao Idibri, who again is just in every fucking thing, I thought it was great playing her like kind of deadpan absurdity. Like when Jimmy Troy is reading her resume, that she clearly just made up a bunch of shit because she's the only one that applied, but like for a counselor role. And he's like, "How'd you learn how to juggle?" And she's like, "There was a fire in my house, and that's how I learned how to deal with the trauma." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Oh man, that's crazy. That's intense."
Yeah, where'd you learn fight choreography? It's like it was very apparent that she was lying.
Yes, yeah, very much. I mean,
he was just like, "All right, bro, that sounds amazing."
But she had those kids doing crazy shit. But like that's some of the times like people in theater, especially like in middle school when we had a lot of parent volunteers, they were making us do some weird ass exercises. And also parent volunteers, man, that's the shit that you got to worry about. Because I remember distinctively during a short play show in high school, I had to wear these pajama pants because I was supposed to be like a little kid being woken up by a monster in my bedroom and shit. And this white woman, I don't even know whose mom she was. She came up to me during like after the rehearsal. She's like, "Oh, those pants you wear, you can really see a lot of movement in your private area." She's like, "I'm not complaining. I just want to let you know." And I'm like, "What?" Like even like I was just like, "Wait, this is like bad creepy." Like that was weird, right?
Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, Brandon. There was a mom in my school that friends with my mom who had a fascination with touching my butt as a kid. and it always
it's not funny. Like, it's not funny because we're talking about molestation at that point. Yeah, it's not funny.
I was like, she'd be like, "Oh my god," just slap me on the butt all the time. I was kind of just like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. Like, this is not what should be happening right now.
Yeah, how old were you?
Huh? Oh, I was a little kid, man.
No, that's not good. That's not, especially if that's not your kid. You shouldn't be touching nothing on them.
Exactly. Anywhere close
to a pat on the head. That's about it.
Yeah, you could grab some cheeks, but you don't grab some cheeks.
Yeah. Speaking of pat on the hats, a pat on the heads and stuff. That was weird. In middle school, I remember my friend Billy, who's just one of the craziest people in my life. There was some popular kids, like we did Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and this is when I really started learning about like politics, like in regards to like popular rich people and like everyone else. Yeah. All the popular rich kids and their moms and shit. All the popular rich kids got the lead roles, even if they couldn't sing. There was two popular kids, because have you ever seen Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat?
Yeah.
So there's the Pharaoh, right? There is one kid. There was two kids that were so popular that both wanted the Pharaoh role. They created two Pharaoh roles. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, they create two pharaoh roles. And I remember Billy, my friend Billy and I, who were like, we were like the misfits and stuff. We were like the dudes that helped the camel, like like carry Joseph across and shit. Like the camel was getting applause breaks. The butt of the camel, a kid named Zach Perlman, who ended up kind of blowing up a little bit in comedy, like he was in like in a Will Ferrell movie and stuff like that, and on Shameless. But I remember Billy getting so mad about that camel taking our shine. He's like, the camel got more of applause than we did. I'm like, dude, we're in a musical. Anyways, um, this dad hated Billy. The dad of like a really popular kid named Sam hated Billy, and like would like I actually kind of physically like grab him. Like if he got frustrated with Billy, would like push him and stuff like that. One day, Billy, the top of his hat, like his sports hat, fell off. So it was just like that sharp prick that keeps a little button on.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad tried like because he like Billy was ignoring him, and the dad tried to slap him on top of the head, and he hit the spike, and the dad was bleeding. That dad never felt with Billy again. But that I still remember, like it shouldn't have gotten to that point where this adult, like the adults around kids in theater, are like no one supervises that shit.
Toxic.
It's insane.
Because you want to know why? Because people see them as non-threatening. Just
Mm,
non-threatening people. Like people are always watching somebody like a coach, a sports coach, something like that, because it's like, oh, that guy could do some damage. They
yeah.
see a theater person, they don't think that this person is threatening, and then that's how they're able to get away with doing crazy stuff. That's you know, people in the business, that's how not gonna say that's how you have fucking Weinstein it was able to do it. Because he was a monster regardless, and that's a different level, but like it's the same kind of thing. It's just like, hey, somebody like that doesn't do bad things.
Yeah.
Like my music teacher hated me, and rightfully so. I was a piece of shit. I was a little shit back in
Oh,
the day.
you don't say.
I was in chorus, and I would just openly I would openly lip sync, and like but I would make it very. I would make sure that she knew that I was not singing. I was a troll, and one day I guess I had pushed her to the limit. She went tried to I
So
went
to
to
the
Catholic
limit.
school. She tried to grab me by my tie. So she went to grab my tie and pull me off stage, which is, yeah, you shouldn't be
You
doing.
can't touch kids, yeah.
Yo, well, she grabbed my tie. Little did she know I had a clip on.
She goes fly.
No, she grabbed the tie. It came off in her hand, and I laughed like Bart Simpson in her fucking face. And I've never seen somebody want to murder me that much in my life. Like Mrs. Leto. I who I had a long running feud with that woman.
Yeah, I definitely had some teachers that like we just did not gel. And
Yeah.
like we were like sworn enemies. I'm talking about you, Senior Roberts. Fuck you. I'm sorry. I hated that nigga.
If I would see Miss Leto, I would say I would apologize to her. It was like,
Oh
hey,
no.
I realized you were just trying to do your job, and I was probably just very disruptive and whatnot. But part of that is because she was a huge Elvis fan.
Mm,
Know how I feel about
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So, and
let's
I
not
was a
go down
young,
that rabbit hole.
yeah. So I was a young kid, and she's going talk about Elvis. I'm just like, he stole music, right?
um, so this movie is basically it's a mockumentary about this, a summer at this camp, this theater camp, and the adults are kind of struggling. The camp itself is struggling financially because it's going under. But it is a safe haven for these kids to be able to express themselves. There's a lot of LGBTQ representation at the camp. And they have a lot of support from the staff that are also within that community. And you just watch the ins and outs of like how the summer musical comes together. That's ran by Ben Platt and Molly Gordon's character. You get their weird fucking. They're so cuckoo bananas, both of them in their own right. They're so out of control. But apparently, Rebecca Diane is low key looking to do something different with her career. She's kind of tired of being stagnant and like going back to this camp. And so she actually low key has booked the cruise ship performance role, which I don't know if you've ever seen any of these shows on cruise ships, Justin, but they are nuts. Like you're trading one enemy for another. Like at that point, you're not. It's gonna be a wild time.
So this is the thing. So what I got from it is that she and Amos, I'm sorry, Rebecca and Amos, sorry, they were having they had tried out for no, well, no, not Juilliard. They tried out for something. They tried out for something in the city and they failed. And then, like much like kind of Ao said, is like, oh, so you guys are codependent on each other. It's like, no, we're just kind of like the same person, and we really we lean on each other. I was like, that's what codependency is.
Yep.
But yeah, so like they hit a point where they became afraid of performing and they became afraid of failure. So then they went the route of teaching because that was the part, basically the least resistance that they were going to get, but they could still be close to their art. So then Rebecca hit a point where, okay, I think I'm ready to get out there because Amos said he's like, I don't think we're ready. And she kind of gave a look. It's just like, so he hadn't grown past that fear, but she had. So she was just like, I'm going to go out and do my own thing because she knew that Amos wasn't there yet or just wasn't there.
Yeah. And that's tough too. Like when you're working with someone so long and like you're like, I think this thing we have to pivot or we have to go for this opportunity. And like the other person's like, I don't know, I don't want it. You just like, fuck. Like you got to figure out, do you want to try this on your own? Or because I remember like when we did the sketch comedy group in high school, and then our director blew it up, and like we basically all the good people we quit. And then I was like, we could do our own show. We know how to do this. Like I have theater like we could do this, guys. And I remember like every rehearsal or every other week, I had to like talk someone off the ledge of like leaving and being like freaking out and being like, we can't do this. I'm like, we really can do this. Okay. Like I know no one else has done this before, at least that to our knowledge, but we can do this. It's not that crazy. If the school can do it with these fucking dumbwits running it, we can definitely do it.
Dimwits. Dimwits. That's the term.
They're dumbwits. Trust me. Trust me. They were doing some shady shit. Like the theater, their dues, the whole system with the dues was really weird.
They're like UCB. Go on.
Yeah, it was shady as fuck. But I did really appreciate like the focus on like how the auditions are ran with just like these very spiteful adults talking shit about little kids and like projecting onto them and shit.
Yeah.
I do remember when I auditioned for I think it was how to succeed in music without really trying, or business. I was succeeding in business, right?
Business.
And I remember distinctively telling the musical director before my audition that I sang like Craig David.
Like Craig David?
Yeah, he was like, how would you describe your voice? And I was like, oh, I sing like Craig David. Like because Fill Me In just came out, and it was at a point where like you're like, can Craig David really sing, or does he just like have a smooth voice that he can put over a beat, right? And I did not sing like Craig David, but I still got a lead role in the musical. I got the only non-sing lead role in the musical.
But you know what? When somebody asks you something like that, ask you a question like that, they're really setting themselves up for this. They're setting you up to disappoint them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, it's just like, hey, what do you see yourself as? A lot of times people don't really know what they sound like.
Yeah, I'm in ninth grade, bro. I'll tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear. I'll be like, I seen like Justin Timberlake and Bobby Brown had a baby. Like, I'll tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear, baby.
Like, as an adult, they should have been smart enough to be able to manage those expectations.
Well, that gentleman, he directed a lot of musicals in my high school time, as well as like the variety shows that I kind of hosted during the spring semester and stuff. He was out of his fucking mind. Like he was very emotional, very unhinged. Like he was the beginning of me seeing like adults not behaving professionally around kids, because there's a difference between someone who does like theater, like a theater director who is an external hire, technically from the DOE, right? They have like more carte blanche to do some wild shit versus like a teacher that's hired like to teach math or whatever. Like there's parameters of what you can do. In theater it's a little more excessive. It's the lines are a little bit more blurred. But I did there was just some weird moments in this movie where I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't probably happen, but I think it's hilarious. Like when the son was trying like the Troy character was trying to like raise some funds, and he had that private event with the business dudes,
Oh my
and the
god.
kids were like, like supposed to be serving and stuff, and they were performing different monologues and shit, and like having breakdowns. And the adult men are just like, I want to go home.
It's like it's like I had a guy in there who's a Vietnam vet. He's having flashbacks because of what the
Because the kids are just screaming in their faces. One girl's just deadpan staring at a man.
oh my gosh.
And they're doing these monologues of like very adult material, which I think is hilarious. I always think it's really funny when adults like kids talk about some adult shit that they have
You don't
no
understand.
context about.
Yeah.
Like, like I'm not gonna have an abortion, Matthew. You're like, what?
What?
Um, I mean, but there all were some reckless adults. Like, the gentleman at the beginning who during the announcements is like, I'm not doing any more piercings. I'm not doing piercings this year because we have a narc. Cassie's a narc.
Yeah, like Cassie's the narc. It's okay, Cassie. Not a big deal. She's yeah, like
Which I did. What did you think of the mockumentary structure? I actually thought it worked.
you know what? It's funny because like I was like, I don't know. At first I wasn't sure how it was gonna work, but then when I saw Jimmy Tatro pop up, I'm just like, well, I know this guy knows how to do it.
That's right. That's right, folks. It's got canceled, but check out American Vandal on Netflix. It's really, especially the first season, it's really fucking funny.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't draw those dicks. I like to draw dicks, but I didn't draw those dicks. It's so stupid.
Like that the moment he popped up, I just knew that like I'm like, all right, well, like like I know that this guy gets it, so like I knew that we were kind of in good hands.
Yeah.
But like yeah, I would say as well that it definitely worked. It definitely worked. But it was just one of those things where I was at first I was just like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
Yeah, I kind of, in a way, like I thought everything worked until the thing that really didn't bump for me was the fucking the business that was trying to acquire the camp. I thought that whole storyline with the actress, I thought that her performance was really out there. Compared, like the movie was already kind of crazy, but like she was on another level. I'll identify who that actress was. I believe it's Patty Harrison who
Yeah.
like yeah, she was really weird. Especially in the third act. She started her dialogue got like to the point where like my friend and Diana and I, when we watched this in the theater, we both looked at each other like, what's going on with her performance? Like, I feel like we're missing something as to why she went from like a 6 to like a 12 by the end of the movie.
Well, it's like it seemed like they slept with each other, and then she was just like, I have all the chips, and like and you're screwed. But yeah, but it's like it very much felt like she went from just like kind of a deadpan feel for it, and then she went like cartoonish villain.
Yeah,
It was weird. It was definitely weird.
I mean, but there's some really weird shit, like with the whole Rebecca Diane, she's doing the seance, trying to talk to the owner who's in a coma. I mean, when the lights all go off in the camp because they blew a fuse or something like that. And then Troy, like they have like the board with all the kids because they're casting the musical. And then Troy's like, yeah, I'm gonna go because the whole candles and kids thing is making me feel weird. Like there were some really funny performances, but I almost wish that Troy had been the main character.
Yeah.
Like he had been the main focus because I think that he is so relatable and you can still have the comedic beats with all the crazy theater people and stuff like that. Because it just got frustrating. Like as much as I thought that Rebecca Diane and Amos's story, fit within like the theater world and showing like what happens to people that get, try to really have a full-time career in this industry. I did think that their beats were effective. Like I did appreciate Amos, like, with the lead actress, like him teaching her, but then getting frustrated when she booked that gig and she had to leave and him becoming bitter, but recognizing, oh, but I'm actually a good teacher. Like she felt confident in her audition because of the things I taught her.
Yeah. And also just the fact is that, when her grandmother came out and was just like, oh, I've gotten lots of letters about you that you were hard on her, but she needed it. But, all that kind of stuff. And then the kids at the end, it actually shows like, even though you don't realize it, how much of an impact that you make, which is important
Yeah.
for teachers or
Yeah.
anybody in some of these positions where you are teaching, like kids or just like, coaching people. And, and then when they, when you actually do get your flowers, and, like that's why you do it. Like that's really why you do it.
Yeah. But sometimes those flowers don't come to either you're like so far away you forgot about those kids, or you're retired, or you did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
folks, if there's someone you appreciate in your life, definitely tell them as soon as you can, while they're still here. You don't want to be a regret and be like, oh, I wish I told them with the impact that they had on me, or things like that. I have some teachers that I'll tell, like, I'll be like, yo, I really appreciated, what you did for me or what you taught me. Like even Bill Barr, that comedian that like ran that sketch comedy group that like, I think he ran into the ground. Without him doing that, I wouldn't have gotten the experience that I got at such an early age, putting a show together and managing a bunch of different personalities and trying to fucking deal with the venues and
Yeah.
budgets and shit. You know what I mean? I would have been like complacent, just done the high school thing, and it all is taken care of for me. Right.
Yeah.
I'm just able to do some crazy shit, but having to do the crazy shit and keep everything else together, like that kind of pressure, it's hard to not appreciate the shit you've been put through, as uncomfortable, as that painful as it was in the moment. Not saying that what that guy did was right. I mean, I'm not like excusing that at all, but you know what I mean? It's like,
No, no, I know exactly what you mean. I know like, but you have to understand that, like, what's the fucking, pressure makes diamonds.
mm, yeah.
You know,
And I think that's what like the movie at different moments like highlights, especially with the theater kids themselves. Like when the lights go out and the heavyset kid is singing "Defying Gravity," and
mm.
he is like, "I am not going to let this disrupt my final note." It just like it keeps going. You're like, I mean, that's what you do sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes, especially if you in New York. I mean, we've worked in some shitty theaters, and
mm.
we've seen some shitty performances and productions, right? And you do what you got with what you got.
You just push through. You just push through.
Yeah. Like I remember, didn't we have to perform a grit sketch in like a dive bar that like was not made for any kind of theatrical performance? And we made it work. It was weird, but we made it work.
Man, listen, man, I've even just outside of grits, I've performed in some really terrible venues, and
Yep.
it's just like you just do what you got to do. You just do what you got to do. You stay there and whatever,
Yep.
and then it teaches you that regardless of what's going on, regardless of how many people in the audience, it could
Yeah.
be two, is just like just do the show, and
Yeah.
but you perform it like you're performing it for 1,000 people.
Mhm. I still remember, I think it was our first ever grit stand-up comedy event. And it was this venue on Third Avenue in the city. And we just, for some reason, I don't know why, got packed, but it was hugely packed. And
Yes.
we were like, okay, all right. So it was so packed, folks. You don't understand. Like the whole restaurant was the show. Like the
Yes.
whole bar was the show. Like people were sitting on the sides, and the comics basically, we had a wireless microphone and we had to stand in the middle of the fucking room, which is not at all how you do stand up. And mind you, we're not, we're all working through shit. We all barely probably have 5 minutes between all of us. You know what I mean? 5 good minutes that are like killer 5 minutes. So a lot of meandering and just trying to figure some shit out. And I remember I was like, well, this is good. We're being thrown into the fire. But the hardest lesson I learned was we were doing donations, and I sent around this can,
Hold on.
and we were
Hold on.
making money.
Hold
That
on.
that can
I
was
just want to
getting.
put this out there. I was not there that night.
You
I
weren't
was,
there.
yeah, I wasn't there that night
That's right, because it was me and Dylan, and we were trying to like keep this shit together because we were like, why are there so many people here? We
yeah,
were like, why are
I,
there so many people here?
yeah, I was. I don't think I wasn't at UCB yet. I can't remember what.
You
Like,
might have been on the road or so. I
I mean,
don't. Oh no, you weren't on the road yet. I don't think.
yeah, I wasn't.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
wasn't on the road yet. But or I think I may have been actually working. I
Yeah.
think I was working. But regardless, I wasn't there that night. And then that can, y'all passed it
We
around.
passed around a grits can. that was getting some money. We were like, oh shit, we might actually be like, this might be a good business. That kid was gone, yo.
Yeah, somebody stole that shit.
Someone stole the money.
Now, mind you, I gotta say though, it was a phenomenal idea. I believe I don't know whose it was. It was mine. But like for the Grit Sketch Comic Group, like the pass around can was just a can of the thing that grits comes in.
Yeah.
The like it was just great. Like we really had a great concept back in the day. It was good. Listen, it wasn't phenomenal all the times, but like we came out, we did our thing. We were doing some different shit.
We were. I mean, that's what live performance and art is all about, right? And that's why, if you're young and you love this stuff, a theater camp makes sense. I think it's just important to make sure that the adults that are going to be around you are of sound mind. Yeah. I mean, some of them are going to be cuckoo bananas, but you got to just make sure the majority of them are people you can trust. Because, I mean, despite the madness of like the cast and stuff, the kids clearly trusted them. Kids clearly, like, even when they saw some meltdowns and like the weird tension between Amos and Rebecca Diane, they still pushed through and did the musical, even when what's his name had to step in as the lead role. In order to keep it going, when Glenn had to step in because he's a performer, but he's always done like the tech stuff, and and that's my friend Joe in theater. Like in St. John's, we both met through like freshman year. It was like auditions for like the first week of college, and so he and I met, and I met my future roommate Nick. I met all two of those dudes like immediately, right? And then like Nick ended up doing his own thing. And then Joe ended up doing the tech. He ended up doing lighting, and that's his career now.
Yeah.
So like it's like even theater, you can also then use that to like siphon off the things that you wouldn't think you would want to do. Yeah. Like he was like, I never thought I would be into lighting, but we all had to help with the crew in some capacity. He ended up helping with lighting. It was like, oh, I actually really enjoy this shit.
It's funny though. I always felt like I probably should have done like more. I should have done theater in high school and maybe a little bit of college, because like other than the fact is like, yes, me, Brandon. I like to improv. Yes, I like to improv. I like to go off, say some wild shit every now and again. But I actually think that like my energy lends for theater pretty well. And it's funny because I went back, my high school reunion, and my one of the teachers I had, who didn't know that I had any interest in that kind of stuff, but she used to run all the plays and things like that in school. And I guess by that point, she had figured out, I guess they had seen me doing like acting work and things like that. And she comes up to me, she's like, so how did you slip through my fingers? It's like, how didn't I know? Like, like you slipped through my fingers in high school. Cause like, I'm usually pretty good at, picking out people. You slip through. So, but she was just like, yeah, she was like, Paul Scheer, cause he went to my high school and things like that. She was like going down the line, some of the people, that she kind of like pulled in. She's like, I could have just gotten you earlier. Sorry, Macho's fucking bothering me here.
Yeah, you got a pussy near you. It's can't help itself. All right, that was low hanging fruit.
I want to slap you.
You can't, because it's via Zoom. You can't do nothing.
I know. I'm gonna have to send a slapogram.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. You hire somebody to go over there and knock on their door, and they open it up and they slap them in the face.
Justin, you were unemployed. Do not spend money on a slapogram. You have a nude child at home. You would be the kind of nigga that's like, just almost financially destitute. It's like, I'm still gonna pay money to have someone a soul brand.
A slapogram.
How much would it cost to pay someone to do that?
I have no idea. I just made that up.
Because technically that's a crime.
Yeah, Brendan, I made it up.
Oh, okay.
You think that's the real thing?
I don't know. I don't know what TaskRabbit offers these days. I don't know what the options are.
Listen, I would totally sign up to be the slapper.
I did. Troy at one point said theater gave my mom a coma, which is such a crazy line to say. Yeah.
I mean, also the being at the final show was them writing a show about Joan was nuts. Like that was so nuts.
Yep.
And the fact is like it wasn't even finished 3 weeks out before
Yeah.
the show had to go up. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, and that's tricky. I remember I did a play in high school at community high school, and the director was such a drunk. Like he didn't even want to. He was just like, forget the second act. We're just gonna do the one act because the rehearsals were such a mess, and he didn't have a clear vision. He was just like we're just gonna do the first act and that be done. I'm like,
Hey
but it
guys,
ends on cliffhangers. Like nothing gets resolved. He's like, no one's gonna care, and no one cared. It was so stupid. It was so bad.
that's crazy.
I was gonna say though, one thing is to your thinking, saying that you wish you had done theater in high school or college. I actually think it might have been better for you, like because it would have given you discipline. Like for me personally, my biggest fear, and that's probably the reason why I've steered away from theater, especially like straight plays for a long time, is because I like am definitely afraid of forgetting my lines.
Yeah.
I'm terribly afraid of like forgetting my lines and fucking up the rhythm of the show.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Right. And so I think that might have, like obviously you have the improvisation experience and stuff like that. But I think having to stick to such a tight script might have been a good experience for you just because that pressure is a lot. Yeah. And, it's just, you want to make sure that you're always, it allows you also forces you to listen to.
Yeah. You're dialed in. You're dialed in.
Yeah. Nothing was more terrifying than doing a play for me.
Yeah.
Like sketches, it's fine because you at least know what the end point is. But with a play, if you don't say specific lines, you could fuck up someone else's like whole character arc. You could fuck up the action of the play. Like there's so many things that could happen if you get a line wrong or forget it.
See, and that's what I've always found scary about theater is the fact is like I would hate to fuck up somebody else's line. So like even well now I've learned to improvise within acting to the point where is like if I'm gonna do some improvisational stuff, I'll still make sure that I give them their cues. So like the last few words are going to be what they need to be. So then the next person knows what their line is and where they need to start off of. But like it takes a while to get to that point where you're know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And like, I think that's why it's good to have experiences when you're in middle school and high school, if you have the right people around, because you can hone those skills. Right. Like, it's actually like surprising how few people from Ann Arbor don't end up breaking out into like Broadway and stuff like that. Because I think the productions are so good, like in the investment, like the money that's put into the arts in that community is like so vast. Like it doesn't even just have to be in high school. Like there's other community theaters and all kinds of things. Like Jeff Daniels has a really famous theater in Michigan that he's been running since Dumb and Dumber days and shit like that. And he's an acclaimed Broadway actor, you know what I mean? And so like there's a lot of stuff out back in Michigan, but it's just a lot of people just stay locally. It's really interesting. But also like, I mean, my sister-in-law, she went to the LaGuardia school. She went to the fucking Fame school. And I mean, that's also a different thing too, because I think people get intimidated real quick. Like I'm surprised to hear how competitive those kids are, like in high school.
Yeah.
Like that shit's as competitive as it was for the theater camp kids when they're trying to get the lead roles in the musical. It's like pretty fucking intense. But yeah, those productions are fucking nuts. Those are Broadway productions at LaGuardia.
Yeah.
Like their theater is huge. And then I was like, these niggas have millions of dollars. Like, who's funding this? Am I funding this? Like, with my tax?
This is my taxes are going?
This is a public school, technically.
Yeah. No, okay. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, listen, man, somebody's got to put on rent.
Yeah.
Pay for it. You gonna pay for it, not me.
525,600 minutes. We gotta do Rent the Musical.
What's that?
We gotta do Rent the Musical. It's really bad.
Rather not.
It's really bad. We should do it. We should do it. I actually have a Broadway performer we could probably get on for that episode. Yeah.
Whatever.
It's gonna be bad. Like the movie is terrible. The musical is great. Yeah. Lluvia is asking, have we done Tick Tick? Have you seen Tick Tick Boom?
Yes.
Yes, I've seen it. It wasn't. The movie is but Andrew Garfield fucking killed that shit. Like, I think he would have won if Will Smith hadn't been clearing the house with King Richard. Mm. Probably if they had known in advance that he was going to slap the shit out of Chris Rock, they probably would have given it to Andrew Garfield. But yeah, Andrew Garfield like carries that movie on his back because it's about the creator of Rent. Before it's his first musical before he wrote Rent. Because he like Jonathan Larson, I think is the writer's name. He died like a week before Rent premiered.
Really?
Yeah. He died like right before like the first off Broadway performance, I believe. Yeah, it's pretty sad. But I mean, at least the musical itself is like lasted. The other adaptations of it haven't been so good. Between the film production, which was just god awful, and then they tried to do that live musical. Remember when Fox and ABC or whatever were doing the live musicals?
Yeah.
And the nigga that played Roger, he like broke his leg the night before. It's just a shit show. So
yeah.
But
died of a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
Straight up some fucking Bruce Lee shit.
Allegedly.
What?
Allegedly, Bruce Lee had an aneurysm.
No, but he also died before Enter the Dragon premiered.
Oh yeah.
So it's very very cool.
Wait, did Bruce Lee die of a brain aneurysm?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I was like, did I?
Well, I mean, it was technically what you call it? Well, swelling of the brain due to having allergic reaction to something, and his brain swelled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I did going back to the theater camp. I did like that. Obviously the theater is saved by the big investment by one of the influencers, right?
No, it was the guy who was Airbnb-ing a fucking cabin.
Oh, that's right. The dude would pop up in the cafeteria, just like, the food's good. Like, the fuck? There's some really weird tertiary characters like Caroline Aaron, who like I think she's always hilarious in everything she does. Who played Rita?
Yeah,
she's fucking crazy in this. Like she's usually unhinged, but she was on another level of this. She was saying some wild shit. I just love little characters like the kid Alan Park, the little agent kid. He was like making the deals and stuff like that on the phone. And they're like, why are you in my office?
Get out of my office. I can make that one a star.
I mean, hey, like, why not? If like that's what you like to do, if you like to make deals and you can spot talent, I mean, it's kind of crazy to be able to do that like as a kid. But you never know.
Somebody's got to be that talking, the talking piece, the mouthpiece, rather.
And sometimes you got to do it for yourself. Do you know that's how Shia LaBeouf, I think, got a representation? He was calling agents, pretending to be like a manager and talking about himself. It was like Donald Trump in the 80s. Like when he used to call the news, like stations and be like, oh, this Donald Trump guy is fantastic. It's like, are you Donald Trump? Because you sound a lot like him. That's a real thing, folks, if you didn't know that.
You know what? I've always thought about doing that.
Just calling people and be like, oh, this Justin Brown guy, he's on fire.
No, it just putting on a weird accent or something like that. Just playing a character. And this is my manager. It's like, I think you guys need to look at this guy.
I think it was easier to pull off before Google.
True.
You know what I mean? I think if this was 2002, I think we could get away with that. Because it'd be hard to cross-reference shit.
No, you can make
a fake website and stuff.
Yeah, but that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, this isn't shattered glass. Like we can only do so much to cover our tracks before people are like, hey, you have any other clients or referrals I can do to verify that you're a person and that you actually have had success as a manager or whatever?
I'm asking me questions. Hang up.
Yeah, you just abruptly hang up. Oh, the connection's bad. Oh, gotta go. Even though Troy does save the camp, like, I mean, inadvertently, I laughed really hard when Joan woke up from her coma. I was like, don't let Troy run the camp.
Well, also the fact is that when Joan wakes up and it's not actually Joan, it's like, oh man, I set up the camera in the wrong room. I was like, what? Yeah. Well, even the fact is like, and we're gonna live stream this right into my mom's room. And it's just this woman, it just see a woman laying in bed in a hospital bed. I was like, wait, that's nuts. That's so nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the movie is really quirky and weird. I think it's interesting because the movie only made $4.6 million at the box office. And there was a world where I was like, could this have been a really successful miniseries? Like imagine this like was like a 3 or 4 episode series and they launched it on like Netflix or something during at the beginning of the summer. I do think there could have been longevity in that. Because every year, like like you could do a new season with a different group of kids and like maybe new counselors and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, because I do feel like it just kind of ends, and you're like, okay, like, and I get it, like this is like a moment in the time of this camp and shit like that. But I do feel like there could have been some more longevity in a different format. Um, Especially considering that Rebecca Diane, she gets fired from the cruise ship shit because she burned it down trying to do it. She burned.
She's doing a seance and burns it. Like what?
I mean, anyone that's actively trying to do this shit, like they're out of their fucking minds.
What? It's a seance or
yeah. What are you doing?
So I was on tour and there was this guy, he's just
oh no.
He was like, I'm gonna do tarot readings. It's like everybody come to my room, we do tarot readings. So, I'm just like, all right, it's like the first day. I'm like, of course, I'm gonna go. Just,
That's the first day. That's how they opened up. Oh
yeah.
no, that's not good.
But it's team building, like things like that. It was like whatever, however weird it is, I'm gonna go because you got to get to know everybody. Okay. So I go, and he's doing tarot readings. He's like, "Oh my god, you're gonna do this," and I'm sitting there. I'm just like, "Okay." Now, mind you, this guy, he was gay, but he was in the closet, right? And so like he only told the girls that were on the cast, for a very long time before he revealed himself to the guys. And like I remember one of the girls telling me, "Is like, well, now you probably don't know this, but such and such is gay." I'm just like, the nigga was doing tarot readings the first night we were on tour. I'm pretty sure I already knew. She just looked at me and started dying. It's like, I completely forgot about that. And was like, how many straight ass witches you think are out there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's like yeah, I get that. It's I remember I had a friend in college who came out to me a few years after like I got to know them stuff. And I remember like when they came out to me, I'm like, yeah, thanks for telling me. They're like, you don't sound surprised. I'm like, yeah, I think the first time we met, you couldn't stop talking about Britney Spears' hairstyles. Like it's just like, and we weren't talking about Britney Spears. You just brought it up. So I figured, oh, okay. Well, either he's a hairdresser, a la like fucking that famous producer who was Barbara Streisand's John Peters, or he's probably gay, which is fine. Like, okay.
Like I've been friends with you this entire time.
Yeah.
You think I had an idea?
Just like, okay. But yeah, the theater camp, I think it represents a very niche group of people in a very niche world. But I do think that it did right in that representation. I like when I watched this movie, and I watched it with a fellow theater person in the theater, and I said theater so many times. But we were both like, this is pretty spot on. Like between the unhinged adults, kids just being able to act as crazy as they want, weird exercises. I always hate the exercises. That shit I always thought was corny.
Yeah.
I was like, I get it. You're trying to put us in the headspace of being fluid and actors and shit. I'm like, but this just seems like you're trying to just torture me like for your own amusement as an adult. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
It's like walk in your character, walk around the room in your characters and observe one another. Don't talk, but just observe one another, taking each other's essence and energy. And I'm like, huh? Yeah, that nigga's Dracula. Like, what are we doing? And I had to wear a blue fishnet shirt.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, I told you about this shit. It was wild, dude. And people were looking at me like, "What the fuck are you wearing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess this is what a doctor wears." And this nigga's vision of Dracula. I was like, "Aren't I the Keanu?" No, I wasn't the Keanu Reeves character. I was the doctor. I was the doctor that was in love with the main chick.
All I'm gonna say is release your inhibitions, feel the your skin.
Who's that? Is that's not Vitamin C? Who was that?
I have no idea.
Natasha Bedingfield.
I have no idea. I don't know who's that. I figured that you would know.
That's back in the 2000s where like a white woman could get away with like one really big song.
Yeah.
But they're like mad basic looking.
Mm-hmm.
And like her and Vitamin C, like they have these hits that are still like popular. Like that graduation song, you can't get away from that shit every June.
I don't know what the graduation song you're even talking about.
As we go on, we remember. You know that song.
No, actually, I don't.
Well, that's because you never graduated school. Justin, break down our rating system, baby. You walked into that one, nigga.
First of all, nigga.
You walked into that, baby.
First of all, nigga, you don't make me come for you. Anyhow, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies, bags of popcorn, small.
In what way, Justin?
What's that?
Nothing. Keep going. You keep setting me up. I don't know what's going on today.
We rate movies, bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any popcorn, any fresh popcorn, we throw it into the stale popcorn pile, piles and piles of stale popcorn at the top of it. So, Brandon, we sat down and watched the 2023 film, a mockumentary called Theater Camp. And this one is starring Noah Glavin, Molly Gordon, Ben Platt, Jimmy Tatro, and a bunch of other actors and actresses that are out here doing their thing. Brandon, what say you, sir?
Yeah, this gets a large. This is a fun, enjoyable movie, and maybe I'm biased because I was a theater kid growing up and stuff like that. But I did think it was really enjoyable. There are some moments that sag a little bit, but you know, between Jimmy Tatro, his fucking crazy ass, and the other actors, I think it helps. It helps get the movie afloat. Also, shout out to Molly Gordon, who was one of the directors of this movie, one of the writers, obviously, because she dresses herself down a lot. But I recently saw her like dressed up for like a premiere for The Bear, and she's a cutie. Yeah. So yeah, like I think this is a good platform. I just wonder what kind of success it might have had it had the opportunity to maybe be a mini series or something like that. I think there was some potential there, but you know, nonetheless, I thought it was still an enjoyable movie. And of course, most of the dialogue in the film is improvised, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Justin, what's your rating?
I'm gonna give it a medium. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's ridiculous, but it's very accurate. It's very accurate to the world. You really feel like, yeah, this kind of parts of this kind of took me back. Which is, you know, a good and bad thing. But you know, and to be totally honest, I'm surprised this didn't actually make more money. But then again, this also came out just last year, so yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the creators still made their money because this sold. It was acquired by Searchlight Pictures for $8 million at Sundance, and so you know, at least the creatives made some money probably.
Yeah,
because the budget is probably pretty small, I imagine. But folks, that's our review on Theater Camp. Remember, you can check out the movie on Hulu. And you can follow me as always at Frodo_Black on Instagram and Threads. You can follow the show at MediaMP Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/MediaMP Podcast. Push that subscribe button so you get alert about all future reviews and celebrity interviews we have on the channel. And Justin, if people want to follow you as well as support the show financially, what can they do, Mr. Brown?
Well, guys, you got to take yourself over to the socials and follow me at J Brown Did It. But you can support this show. You can help this show grow and become better by going to patreon.com /medium-popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages over there on Patreon. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We have so many bonus episodes, bonus shows, mini shows. Like, guys, Patreon is where it's at. If you love this show, that's where it's really where you're going to get your ears worth. You will fill your ears with nothing but content. And again, guys, that's patreon.com /medium-popcorn.
Yeah, that's right. Patreon.com, y'all. All right, folks. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Everyone will say, hey, hey. Goodbye.
I roll my eyes anymore.
I don't know. That didn't look like it was an eye roll. That looked like you were going into a seance yourself. Peace, y'all.
Peace.